an update. I am on day 1 of my liquid-only diet for bariatric surgery. So that's a thing. I don't feel terrible right now. I've had 2 protein shakes, breakfast and lunch. And I have a flavored water that I'm sipping on. Yeah. So, like, the mental nervousness of having to do this is way more powerful than anything that has to do with not eating. So what I mean by that is, as soon as I got up knowing that this was the first day, I was stressed out. Not because I couldn't have food, but because I couldn't have food. So it's like a weird double... I don't even know. I really don't know how to explain it. It's like, I'm not even hungry. I know I'm not hungry. But my brain is telling me, because I can't have it, I want it, right? Because that's human nature. We can't have curly hair, we want straight hair. We can't have straight hair, we want curly hair. So that's what we're doing. That's what I'm working with right now. And, yeah, day 1. I think it's going to get harder. I mean, clearly, obviously, it's going to get harder the further I go because I'm going to have to go through sugar detox. I've already been eating less sugar, but not no sugar. So that'll be a transformation, or like not a transformation. It'll be like a wall that I have to go through. There we go. Adjusting, sorry. But right now I've been just trying to get this class done. And I want to have it done by this weekend. So then I have a couple days to just hang out with the kids and play until surgery day. Hello. How are you? And then, yeah, then all the fun starts, right? So there's that. Hello. Hi guys, how are you? Lucky Levi, Debbie, you're good? Boop, boop, boop. Hi Sasta, hi Declan. I'm probably just destroying your guys' names, so I'm sorry. I don't know either, sorry. Luzo, BS. I know they're soccer players, that's all I know. Yasin? I don't know. Hello. Joe, hi. I'm from the States. Where are you from, Sasta? And I know I'm probably destroying some of these names, and I apologize, guys. Thank you for liking the stream. I appreciate it. I am good. I was just talking about how I am starting my liquid diet. Assam. I'm not sure where that is. I'm on day 1 of my liquid diet for bariatric surgery in a week. So I'll be on liquid diet for about 8 weeks, and this is day 1. My day was good though. I'm trying to get a class done, and it's just a lot to listen to, and I don't want to listen to it. How was your day? MK, hello. Thank you, Lucky. Yeah, I'm gonna try. It's hard. The mental game is hard, right? Like, physically, I'm not hungry. Mentally, I keep thinking because I can't have it. That's what I was describing, is it's like human nature. If we can't have it, we want it, right? Our minds are sick in that way. I'm from the States. Naeem. So I'm just playing the mind game. And then when we get through that, we're good. I stopped smoking cold turkey a couple years ago, and I was successful in that. This is the biggest one that I need to do now to be done. What state? I'm from the central U.S. From central United States. But, yeah. My focus is crap, so I'll tell you that. Because there's a lot of just chaos in my brain at the moment. Hi, Jagro. God, I can't say it. Teach me your way. Jagroup. But yeah. Yep. What is everybody up to today? I need to listen to these lessons so that I can get done with this class. I'm good. How are you? Hello. And good. That's good. So we're going to listen to psychology stuff and then take quizzes, and that's what we're going to do. So I won't be entertaining the chat now that I've gotten through my update. Yeah, I might a little bit, but I'm not going to be stuck to it. I'm going to be doing my homework, and I'm doing a psychology class that I need to get done this week. And it's just time consuming. So it's very repetitive, and I have to listen to each lesson, and there's about 100 lessons, and then each lesson is approximately 4 to 10 minutes, and then I take a little quiz, and I'm done, and then I keep going until I'm done, and then it's a little side course that they're accepting in my program for my bachelor's. I'm from the central United States, so when I'm done with this, I only have 3 more classes until I'm done with my bachelor's. So that's exciting. I took a little hiatus to do my surgery. And then when I'm done with my surgery, I'll get back into it and get stuff done. I'm trying to do better human things, and that's really hard. Just saying. My brain wants to implode. Because, thank you for the like. Because being a better human is hard. Because science, I don't know. Because our brains are wired funny. And we just love repetition and pattern so much that even the bad ones can ruin it. So, I'm trying to rewire my brain, guys. No big deal. NBD. And it's fighting me. It says no. Just kidding. It's not too bad, honestly. I just need to look at it differently. Let's do a lesson on sex versus gender. That's a hot topic, isn't it?
Have you ever gone shopping for toys and noticed that in most stores, toys are separated into sections for girls or boys? The girls section is probably bright pink, with sparkly ponies and princesses everywhere. In contrast, the boys section is usually blue and brown, with toys like plastic guns, soldiers,
so boring and
bombs.
so obvious.
Our society teaches little girls and boys our stereotypical expectations very early on. This lesson focuses on the concepts of sex and gender, then discusses non-traditional forms of gender, such as transgenders. Finally, we'll cover the idea of sexual orientation and how different orientations might be viewed in society. First, we should define the difference between the terms sex and gender.
Yep, fun, isn't it?
Sciences, sex refers to biological differences.
It's like
and females.
some of the videos are
usually split up into 2 categories. The first category is called primary sex characteristics, which include internal and external genitals.
So some of the videos are really
have a penis and
detailed.
testicles.
And then others are very much not detailed. So they feel very elementary and it's hard to follow because I just get sidetracked. The stuff that's harder to follow, though, is definitely more in depth. So it's more entertaining to listen to. But yeah, telling me that people have penises and vaginas is not exactly keeping my attention. Nor is it new to me. I know that might be shocking, but it's not new to me.
While women have a clitoris and ovaries.
Yeah.
The second category that is used to differentiate between men and women is called secondary sex characteristics, which includes non-genital differences. For example, there are hormonal differences.
No way.
Men produce more testosterone, while women produce more estrogen.
Yeah, they do.
Men are sometimes taller and physically stronger than women, have more facial hair, and they
Thanks.
more often
I
tend to
smoked
be bald.
cigarettes a long time.
In
That helped.
contrast to the biological concept of sex, gender is a social construct involving how a person identifies as male or female, and how they express those traits to others. Some scientists state that gender is where you fit on the gender spectrum. Modern gender studies try to avoid defining gender based on gender stereotypes. For example, we used to have stereotypes about men being better at math, enjoying sports, and being more stinky and messy than the average woman. And we used to have stereotypes about women enjoying being around children, baking, and wearing pink frilly dresses. When you think about your own preferences and behaviors, are you primarily masculine, or are you more feminine? Now that we've defined sex and gender, you might not have realized that, so far, we've only talked about the concepts in terms of male versus female. Many people do not consider the fact that many people who study these topics acknowledge that there are, in fact, more than two categories of sex or gender. There are two concepts that are important for you to know. The first concept is that of people who are called intersexed. Intersexed people have an unusual biological makeup that doesn't match either a traditional male or female. For example, traditional men have a chromosome pair
It's
we
not.
call XY, and traditional
I
women
mean, it's
have a
fine.
chromosome pair
It's just
we call XX. Did you know that there are
obvious
lots of other
information.
possible combinations?
I have to take the
There are
class.
people who have
So
three chromosomes, such as XYY or XXX. These people often have genitals that are some kind of mixture, such as a small penis or an enlarged clitoris. There are other types of intersexed people who have one of the traditional pairs of chromosomes, but their hormones are unusual, such as getting extra doses of testosterone or estrogen when they were fetuses. This results in other types of bodies, such as a body that might have both a penis and breasts. Scientists now acknowledge that because of intersexed conditions, there are really more sexes than just male and female. If you count all of the different possible
I think
intersex
that's been
solutions, you
a
might
thing
say
for quite a
that there
while.
could be 20 different possible sexes or more. Another way that people might not match how we traditionally view sex and gender is if they are a transgender. Transgender people feel that they are a different sex than the one based on their physical body. So, a transgender person might be biologically male, but feel inside that they are really a female. This person might prefer to wear women's clothes, go by a woman's name, and date men. It could be the other way around as well. A biological female might feel inside that a male assignment is more fitting. Transgender people sometimes take hormones or have surgery to change their bodies to be more in alignment with how they feel on the inside. Finally, there are some people that do not feel they fit in either category of male or female, but instead view themselves as either having no specific gender or
Non-binary.
as having a blended
Am I
idea
right?
of being both genders.
I'm guessing.
The term for having no specific gender is non-binary, meaning not fitting
Winner.
in a binary
Ding, ding, ding.
system of two genders of male and female. The last topic we'll cover in this lesson on sex and gender is the idea of sexual orientation. Sexual orientation refers to whether you are sexually attracted to men, women, or both. Most of the time, sexual orientation is divided into three possible categories. First, people who identify as heterosexual are sexually attracted to people of the opposite gender. In other words, men would be attracted to women and vice versa. An alternative is to identify yourself as homosexual, which means you are sexually attracted to people of the same gender. So here, Men are attracted to men, and women are attracted to women. The third option is bisexual, which means you are sexually attracted to both men and women. Note that there are actually more categories than just these three, but most people fall into one of these three groups. Now, like I said before, most people think of sexual orientation as one of these three categories. However, many people who study sexual orientation actually believe that sexual orientation should not be in categories like this, where you need to pick one of the three options. Another possibility is that sexual orientation could be on a sliding scale. The idea was popularized by a famous sex researcher named Alfred Kinsey, who conducted thousands of interviews regarding people's personal sexual lives and preferences. Kinsey believed that sexual interest could be viewed as flexible. To explain, think about a continuum for another variable, such as height. On one end of the scale, you have people who are very, very short, and on the other end of the scale, you have people who are
Yes,
very,
I have a lot of
very
people.
tall.
Tons.
People on either end are very unusual because most people are
You mean-
somewhere in the middle. Kinsey said the same idea could be applied to sexual interest. Even at a
Taking a
scale
nap.
where one end was very heterosexual, people only have experiences and interest in the opposite gender exclusively. On the other end is very homosexual. People only have experience and interest in the same gender. However, Kinsey said that most people will actually be somewhere in the middle. Throughout life, people can move around on the scale. You might be mostly heterosexual, but have a single experience with someone of the same gender, or a fantasy about someone of the same gender. This would move you up on the scale, just a little bit.
What's
So,
your
in
fantasy?
summary, it's
I
possible
wanna.
that a person's sexual orientation can shift throughout life versus remaining in one category of orientation. Note that this theory implies that most people are at least a little bit bisexual. In summary,
At least a little
sex
bit.
refers to the biological differences between men and women, while gender is a social construct involving how a person identifies as male or female and how they express those traits to others. While most people think of sex as only being male or female, there are other possibilities. Intersex people have an unusual biology that doesn't match traditional male or female biology. In contrast, transgender people have typical biology, but don't feel their identity matches their biology. Non-binary individuals view themselves as either having no specific gender or as having a blended idea of being both genders. Finally, sexual orientation refers to whether you are sexually interested in men, women, or both. While most people think of sexual orientation as being the categories of heterosexual, homosexual, or bisexual, many researchers believe that sexuality is actually more like a continuum
Apparently,
or sliding scale that can change through life.
without
And
assuming
that
your
most people
sex,
fall somewhere in the middle of the scale,
everybody
indicating at
is
least
bi
a little bisexual
to an
interest.
extent.
What do you think
That's what
of
my
these
thing
alternative
says.
ways to think about sex and gender?
Apparently, hetero is not real because everybody's a little in between. I'm just telling you what I'm learning here. I'm learning big brain stuff. Because one study said it was a thing, so that means that that's the generality, apparently. Because that makes sense. Because logic. External and common differences between men and women that don't include genitalia, such as differences in height, men's ability to grow beards, and women's breasts, are examples of secondary sex. Tertiary, they didn't even have that. Quaternary, yep, that's it. Now we're in quantum physics. Secondary. Consuela, swear to God, that's what it says. Consuela, you ready? Consuela was born as a traditional biological female. However, Consuela feels more comfortable associating with other people as a man. Consuela dresses in men's clothing, goes by the name Constantine, and is preparing for genital reassignment surgery. Based only on this information, which category of people does Consuela fall into? We're not supposed to assume, but I'll have to just pick D for transgendered people. Yes. John is born with the chromosome XYY. Based on only the information, which category of people does John fall into? Intersex. A. Yes, I have a boyfriend. You have boyfriend? Do you have boyfriend too? Alfred Kinsley proposed a controversial idea that sexual orientation should be considered as continuum or scale instead of group of categories. This theory implies that statistically most people will be at least a little bisexual. That's even a quiz question, so there's that. The term blank refers to biological difference between men and women, while construct involving how a person identifies as male or female and how they express those traits to others. Sex and gender. 100% next lesson. Only 400 more to go. Patriarchy and sexism. It's getting interesting. This is a 10-minute video. How many more do I have? 6 more in this chapter. I just have to get done. I want to get done so bad. Okay, come on. Tell me to focus every 5 minutes, please.
Think about a stereotypical family in a traditional setting, such as a family sitting down to Thanksgiving dinner in the United States. Who can you picture carving the turkey at the head of the table? For many people, this task is given to either the father or the grandfather in a family. Now assume for a minute that you're heterosexual and plan to get married. Do you plan to change your last name after the wedding? If you have children, will they get the last name of the father or the mother? Most families across the world assume that the wife will take the husband's name and that the children will do the same.
Across the world, huh?
Both of these examples, the Thanksgiving turkey and families taking the husband's name, are examples of two concepts, patriarchy and sexism. This lesson will first define patriarchies versus matriarchies, and then we'll discuss 5 different forms of sexism. First, what is patriarchy? The word literally translates as rule of fathers, and it means a society in which male members have more social and political power than female members. Most societies all over the world have been set up in a patriarchal system since humans began forming groups. Many religions teach that in a family, the father should be the one who makes important decisions. Most societies expect the father of the household to be the one who provides economic resources, and everyone in the family usually takes on the father's last name. Most countries throughout history have had men ruling their countries or running their governments. The contrast to patriarchy would be a society based on the system of matriarchy, which translates as rule of mothers. A matriarchy would be the opposite of a patriarchy. A matriarchy is a society in which female members have more social and political power than male members. Can you think of any modern countries that are examples of matriarchy?
This concept in itself is so silly that we have to distinguish between patriarchy and matriarchy, because why wouldn't it, what would you call a society that both are important for different reasons because we're biologically made differently? What about that one? Can we talk about that? Because that needs to be an answer. Like there needs to be a word for it, and it needs to be a thing. I'm old, okay? I'll stay home and cook and clean and take care of kids and do all the things, but yeah, I don't know. We need an in-between word. Maybe it's going to tell me one in a minute, but I have a feeling it's not, and I think that's for a reason.
Patriarchies.
Just saying.
Sure, some countries have female
because
leaders,
it's
such
black
as the
and
Queen
white
England.
when it's not.
However, even in these countries, the general population is still a patriarchal system. At home, men are still considered to have more power than women, and the government still has more male politicians than female politicians. In fact, social scientists have only identified a few cultures in the entire history of the world that ran with a matriarchal system. One example is the Musuo, a very small community of people in rural China, where women control property, choose their husbands, and make most of the decisions in the community. So why is it the case that 99% of cultures in the history of the planet Earth have run on a patriarchal system instead of a matriarchal system, or a system based on total equality between men and women? Social scientists say that the answer is sexism. Sexism is the general belief that one sex is superior to the other. Most of the time, sexism benefits men, as we've seen within patriarchal cultures. Many social scientists argue that patriarchies are so popular because most cultures throughout history have given men more power than women. This power differential is the essential element of sexism. However, even though you've probably heard of sexism before and know what it basically is, social scientists have studied sexism in depth. If we can understand sexism, it will be easier to see how and why it influences cultures. In fact, scientists have decided that sexism is complicated, and therefore they have identified different forms of sexism and how these forms affect people's thoughts and behaviors. The rest of this lesson will discuss 5 different forms of sexism that have been identified by social scientists. The 5 types we'll cover are old-fashioned, modern, hostile, benevolent, and ambivalent. The first type of sexism is called old-fashioned sexism, and this refers to explicit and overt beliefs that men are superior to women in a variety of skills and tasks. Someone who believes in old-fashioned sexism might publicly make statements like, men are just smarter than women, or women shouldn't be politicians because they can't handle the pressure. It's called old-fashioned sexism because someone from 50 or 100 years ago might have heard these statements all the time in public. But today, people are less likely to say these things out loud. That doesn't necessarily mean that people don't believe them, but many cultures today find it rude or disrespectful to be so explicit with beliefs against people in a certain group. Just like racism or homophobia isn't as socially acceptable today as it was 50 years ago, old-fashioned sexism is considered rude by today's standards. However, the second type of sexism is called modern sexism, and this form of sexism is fairly common in today's society. Modern sexism refers to 3 basic beliefs. First, the belief that sexism is no longer a problem in today's world. Second, that programs designed to help women are not.
Hold on. So you're teaching me that there is... I love school because it's so fucking ridiculous. Sometimes it's knowledgeable, right? Like, but sometimes you have to like question things because you just taught me that like traditional sexism is no longer a thing, which question marks pop up there, right? But then we move on to modern sexism, where now we're saying that the belief that sexism is no longer a problem in today's world is one of the top criteria of modern sexism. So why are we renaming it if it's the same? Like, why are we renaming traditional sexism if you're acknowledging in modern sexism, which is step 2, essentially, right? Like modern, that old sexism is still there. Like, why are we, what is the purpose? Like, why are we recategorizing this after you just told me that traditional sexism is no longer prevalent in the modern world, but then the second one says that quite the opposite? Ooh, make it make sense.
Are not
Maybe they're going to
necessary.
make it make sense.
And third,
but that doesn't make
that
sense.
Women who complain about sexism are just causing trouble. Essentially, modern sexism tries to make the argument that men and women have equal opportunities in today's world, so people trying to end sexism are actually hurting men. Modern sexism ignores national problems such as the fact that women are paid less than men for the same job, and instead it argues that modern policies are unfairly favoring women. Because these beliefs use equality as their surface value, modern sexism is a common argument with today's politicians and policymakers. The third type of sexism we'll cover in this lesson is called hostile sexism. Just like the name implies, hostile sexism has components of anger and bitterness in it. Basically, hostile sexism is the belief that women are whiny, sexual teasers.
So we're saying that traditional sexism is what we used to have, which is men being superior, and now modern day is where women have switched its roles, is how they worded that.
Who enjoy controlling men. People who
Hostile
have high levels of
sexism.
hostile sexism do not like women, and they believe that all women are trying to take all power away from men. Hostile sexists are most likely to publicly
Is a man that
disparage
calls
feminists,
everybody a succubus.
and they prefer women who are submissive to men. So far, we've covered old-fashioned sexism, modern sexism, and hostile sexism. These three forms all have something in common. They view men as better than women. This general view is in contrast to our fourth type of sexism, which is called benevolent sexism. Benevolent sexism is the belief that women have qualities of purity and morality that men lack and should be treated like princesses. So on the surface, people high in benevolent sexism actually favor women, thinking that they are precious, beautiful, and delicate. Do you think benevolent sexism benefits women in general? While benevolent sexism seems like it would help women because it's sort of complimenting women, many social scientists believe that these beliefs really hurt women. Believing that women are delicate princesses is actually condescending in some ways because it creates expectations that women need to be protected and can't accomplish difficult tasks on their own. It implies that women are dependent on men. Finally, it means that women who don't fit into this pretty, delicate expectation are considered less desirable wives and mothers. The last type of sexism we'll discuss today is called ambivalent sexism. The word ambivalent in general means pulled in two directions, and that's just what ambivalent sexism is. Basically, ambivalent sexism is the belief that some women are good and pure, while other women are bad and deserve bad treatment. When people are high in ambivalent sexism, they sort women they meet into one of these two categories. Some women, such as maybe their own mother and grandmother, are revered and considered worthy of protection and love. However, other women who don't fit traditional expectations are considered to be evil feminists who deserve no respect or love. Essentially, ambivalent sexism is a combination of believing in both hostile and benevolent sexism, but applying these opposite beliefs simultaneously by simply believing there are only two types of women, good and bad. This set of beliefs harms both women and men by reducing human beings into simple categories, which ignores the complexity of human life and society. This lesson covered several ideas relevant to interactions between men and women. First, we defined a patriarchy, which is a society in which men dominate, and compared that to a matriarchy, which is a society in which women dominate. Next, the lesson defined sexism in general and covered 5 specific types of sexism. The types we summarized were old-fashioned, modern, hostile, benevolent, and ambivalent. Have you ever thought about different types of sexism and how each type has a slightly different impact on society? What do you think will happen with sexism in the next 50 years?
Maybe you'll make 65 more categories for it. Instead of just saying some people are assholes. It's crazy, isn't it? Patriarchy. Which form of sexism contends that inequality between men and women is no longer a problem in society? Modern. In the Mosul community of Royal China, women own and inherit property. They still do it in here too. They make community decisions. They do that here too. And they choose their male partners. They do that here too. That's not, it says it's a monarchy, but we do that too. We do it too. It's not monarchy, it's a matriarchy. I don't know why I just, wait, now I'm fucking confused. It's major auditor, not mono. Come on, lady. The word spelling gets me confused. Which statement best can reflect how in benevolent sexist societies are harmed? It makes women capable of handling it and wear a lot of makeup to look pretty or dependent on men. Benevolent, yes. Yeah. God, I love dogs. He's home from work. Gotta go. How do I turn this off?